Good morning, welcome back. If it's Tuesday, you know it's Jason Sukamel recruiting day with a matching rivals outfit. Jason, it's not something
Well,
you do. What is this?
they were the closest thing to my sink when I woke up this morning. And I'll wear this is the new Rivals logo. If I can do it the right way. Rivals.
Uh-huh.
This is so old. This is the old Rivals
Oh
logo.
wow. Oh
So I got
wow.
old school and this, so they don't match at all, but they're both Rivals. So
Okay. Well, from
maybe I can get away
afar,
with it. Yeah.
from afar, I couldn't tell the difference. But and I can't actually hell. The fact that you said there's a new rivals logo, well, that's news to me. But Jason, it's obviously it's a good time to talk about recruiting. I know it's February. We're kind of getting in the start of it, but there's always going to be lots of little recruiting things and nuggets that are happening. You had something over the weekend, Jason, and it's a little thing, but it's a big thing because as we start figuring it out, and it's always good to be in the mix than it is to be out of the mix. But John Turntine is starting to everything's starting to come together. Things that he's starting to think about. What can you tell us about the guy out of Fort Worth?
Yeah, I had hit John. Is funny. Like when you talk to him directly, he's really good interview, really, really, you know, personable, but he's kind of gone quiet lately as I silence
Mhm.
my phone here. So he doesn't do a lot of interviews. So I had actually hit up his dad on our last week and said, "Hey, do y'all have any official visits set up? Because Texas is starting to set up a lot of June official visits, especially with offensive linemen. They're starting to really hit those guys and get dates locked in." And his dad, this is on Thursday or Friday last week, his dad said, "No, we don't have anything set up yet, but we're working on maybe this weekend. I'll let you know." And he texted me over the weekend and said, "Hey, okay, they have first." He said two visits set up. They had Texas and Texas A&M. These are official visits in June. Um, and then he hit me back and said, "Okay, they've also got Tennessee." So they've got in order. They've got Texas A&M the first weekend of June.
Mhm.
Um, they have Tennessee June 13th, and they have Texas June 20th. So that's good news for Texas, right? Um, they get him in for an official visit. They didn't get him in for the junior day. He actually went to Tennessee for their junior day instead of coming to Texas. So when that happened, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't quite the lock that people think it is for
Mhm.
John Turntine to wind up at Texas. But, he still likes Texas a lot. He's been to Texas a ton. He's got a sister at UT. I need to ask him again, but he had a sister at UT last year. I'm assuming she's still there this semester. I need to check on that. But he will be coming in that weekend of June 20th. Now, Texas's biggest weekend, Omar, is going to be June 13th. That's their big official visit weekend. If I
Okay.
look at my list here, I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys committed for that weekend of June 13th. And I can roll through them if you want. But
Mhm.
Turntine's not going to be in that weekend. So I think if you're a Texas fan, you probably say, "Oh, man, I wish he was coming in on the 13th." But him coming
Mhm.
in on the 20th, you'll take it. You're getting an official visit. He'll be there with Max Wright, the Texas offensive line commitment, and a handful of other guys. So, big news is that Texas will get an official visit. So will Texas A&M, and so will Tennessee. And I'm not sleeping on Tennessee after he visited there for their junior day.
I mean, the thing is, Jason, there is maybe a hidden benefit of him not being there with the big group, which is more individual attention, right?
Right.
I mean, he could get way more just not lost in the shuffle, and but just it's just you, me, the family, Coach Flood, and it in some ways, I know that you said Max will be there as well, but and maybe other guys, but it might be a blessing in disguise in some ways, right, Jason?
Yeah, that actually has happened before where guys have purposely said, "Hey, I don't want to come in on the big junior day weekend or the big official visit weekend. I'd rather come in on a different weekend." And they'll come in like, well, in fact, uh, you know, uh, who did it last year was the offensive lineman who committed to Oklahoma. He said, "Hey, I don't want to come in for the big junior day weekend. I'm going to come in the weekend after." So it didn't quite work out for Texas with that. So, but there can be a benefit. You get more personalized time, like you said, with these guys, because on official visit weekends and junior day weekends, I mean, listen, man, you can have 20 guys there, or on junior days, 50, 75 guys there. It's hard to get, a lot of like just good personal one-on-one time with them. But if you come in a smaller group, like what might happen with John Turntine, man, you get the red carpet rolled out. You feel like it's almost exclusively a weekend for you. So it could end up being a blessing in disguise for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for those who they're maybe unfamiliar, Jason, but they will get familiar in the next couple of months and everything. And those who weren't paying attention to the 2026 class, but we'll start Turntine and what makes him some kind of an important kind of key recruiting piece in this 2026 class.
Yeah, real quick, I'm looking. Yeah, last year, the big recruiting weekend was June 14th, so one day different. And Fasusi came in the following weekend, so it didn't quite work out.
Okay. Okay.
What makes Turntine so good in this class? He's a borderline 5-star type talent, top 5 guy in the state. As you see, they're number 4 in the state. Actually dropped a little bit. They moved Felix Ojo above him, but I've seen Turntine in action. I've seen him at camps. I'm hoping I'll see him at a camp this coming weekend. He was actually at the Rivals camp last year. He's just, first off, I mean, he's got good size at 6'4", 317. He's not 6'6". He doesn't have the prototypical left tackle frame the way that Fasusi did, or the way that maybe Felix Ojo has. But at 6'4", and 315, 320 pounds, he's still got a very good offensive tackle frame. He moves really well. You know what? There's just not really a weakness in his game, Anwar. He moves well. He's technical. He's strong at the point of attack. He just kind of does it all really well. So if you're asking me, to describe him, I'm just kind of like, well, he's kind of a jack of all trades. I mean, there's not really anything he doesn't do well. I mean, he could play inside. He could play, obviously, at right tackle. He can play at left tackle. He's athletic enough to play at left tackle. So, there's a reason he's in that 5-star conversation. I don't want to say he's a can't-miss prospect. I mean, you never want to say that, because then you look like an idiot 2 years later. But John Turntine is pretty close to I said Fasusi. I said about Fasusi, like, that dude's almost a can't-miss. I mean, I don't know that I'd put Turntine in Fasusi's league, but he's just a notch below him, just a little bit below him. I mean, he's a really, really good prospect and a 5-star player for a reason.
By the way, Jason, I'm sometimes the comments just derail me and stuff. Out of curiosity, that doesn't look like an OnlyFans. First of all, I
said that the day you unveiled it, if you remember.
Really? I don't know what the OnlyFans logo looks like. I'm
well, shame on me, but I do.
First of all, you guys are really telling on yourselves with this whole thing. By the way, I didn't come up with it. Tyler came up with it.
Well, shame on Tyler. Yeah, no.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I remember like the day you broke that out, or the week you broke it out, and I was like, oh, that looks like OnlyFans. And you said, oh, man, I remember you're like, oh, now I can't get that out of my head. So, yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I've never been on it. I don't really get the concept of it. I mean, I get it.
I mean, I'm joking. I've never been on it either. For some reason, I know the logo. Don't ask me why, but honestly, I've never been on it. So, but yeah.
I'm looking at this. I mean, it's pretty close. I guess if you're on there, this might remind you of it. Well, good. There's reasons for you to come back then every single day. So that's you fellas are interesting. I don't get the concept of paying people, like random people, money for stuff, but whatever.
There's so much free stuff out there. Why are you gonna pay?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, exactly. That's probably why people are like, why am I subscribing to Orange Bus? Does Turntine, does he project as a tackle for you, or is he more of a guard at that height and weight?
It's a really good question, honestly. I think he's a tackle because that's where your best value is, right? And he's good enough to be a tackle. Could he be a guard if he just fell into a situation like, oh, wait, we've got a third-year starter at left tackle and a third-year starter at right tackle. John Turntine, we're going to put you at guard and see how that goes. Yeah, he could do that. But no, I do think he's a tackle at the next level. I mean, I think he's a left tackle at the next level. I mean, those are your big kind of moneymaker positions, right? And he's good enough to do that. But in the right situation, could he be a guard? Does he have the frame to be a guard potentially? Yeah. I mean, like I said, he's not, he's not 6'6", 310 pounds. He's not Felix Ojo, 6'7", 280 pounds. I mean, he's 6'4", 317. So he's a little more compact. So yeah, I do think he could be a guard at the next level, but I think probably most coaches are viewing him as a tackle, and I haven't talked to John. Maybe again, I'm hoping I see him this weekend, but that's a question I can ask him this weekend. Hey, are you locked in, dead set on being a tackle and maybe even a left tackle? How important is that to him? But yeah, I think probably he'll be a tackle at college.
Jason, let me just go through this list real quick here. Right. So I'm looking at the Rivals rankings. I'm just going to go offensive lineman for a second. So I'll get to Felix Ojo. Okay. But we got Turntine here at 4. Then you go down right around the Max is somewhere in here. I feel like, okay. Maximus Wright is at 18 from a tackle position. Just going through some of these other guys like Zayden Krempin. I'm looking down a little bit down the list. Is there any of these other guys, Avery, Morcho, anybody else in the state that you think Texas is focused in on? Or I can go to the offer list if that makes it a little bit better or easier. Is it basically like Ojo and Turntine are kind of the guys?
No, I think it goes beyond that. I mean, you mentioned Zayden Krempin. He's a guy that Texas is really pushing for. Obviously, Max Wright's committed. Okay, let's get that one out there. But Zayden Krempin is a guy that they're pushing for. They've already set up an official visit for him. He's out of Prosper. He's at number 21 in the state there, if you scroll down a little bit. Drew Evers is a guy, more of an interior guy, number 32 out of Flower Mound, Texas. He's a guy that they've been recruiting pretty aggressively, brought him in for the junior day. Nick Robertson is a guy that we haven't talked a ton about. He's at number 35. I see him there. Number 35 on the list. He did visit the Texas junior day. I think it's kind of Texas and Texas A&M. I actually, in my 3-2-1, I predicted Nick Robertson to be at a Texas commitment. I predicted Zayden Krempin, and you mentioned Felix Ojo. I predicted all those guys to eventually be Texas commitments. So there's a handful of in-state guys. There's even a couple out-of-state guys that Texas continues to recruit. So, it's a big year at offensive line for the Longhorns in terms of numbers. They need it to be a big year. So, Kyle Flood is leaving no stone unturned. He's recruiting a lot of guys in-state aggressively. And then there are a couple out-of-state guys he's recruiting too.
Yeah, let's go like, for instance, Emmanuel here. Emmanuel, how do I say his name? Do you know how I say it?
They're not really recruiting him. Nicho. I talked to him last year. I say they're not recruiting. They offered him, but I talked to him last summer.
He's a 5-star. Why the hell are they not?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if he's just not really showing them the kind of reciprocal. But they're just focusing elsewhere. But when I talked to him last year, he had a Texas offer, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm interested in Texas, but you could just kind of tell he wasn't really that interested in Texas. So, he did visit A&M. A&M's in the mix there, but for whatever reason, Texas just isn't really aggressively going after him.
Okay, so the sweet spot then basically is Ojo, Turntine. That kind of seems to be the sweet spot. They've already got Max. I'm just going down the list. So, is it?
I should mention Toa Katoa. He's another guy, interior offensive lineman at Euless Trinity. He's a guy that I predicted to be at Texas. So, again, this is going to be probably a 5, maybe even a 6-man offensive line class. Who the hell knows? We've seen them take up to 7 before. I don't anticipate that happening, but it's going to be a large offensive line class, and I think the bulk of it will come from in-state guys.
Okay, sounds good. Jason, ironically, I've got Under Armour on. Actually, probably the only Under Armour gear that I've actually had is like a gift from one of my kids, like a Christmas ago. So that's the only reason I wear it. But they do have an Under Armour camp that's coming up. Actually, hold on. No. Forget that for a second. June 13th. Who are the other guys that are coming in? Then we'll go back to the Under Armour camp, because you did say that isn't going to be a big weekend. I don't want to skip over that, and I'll get to the Under Armour camp in a second. Who is Turntine's coming in the following week? Then who are the guys that are already committed for the big weekend?
Yeah, let me pull up my list here. Give me 1 sec. I'm sorry.
No,
But yeah, that's traditionally Texas always has. There's really 2 big weekends in June that Texas always does, but there's one that's kind of the biggest of the 2. And they're going to have guys come in. There's 3 weekends in June. Okay, you can also do the last weekend of May, but Texas is going to do the weekend of June 6th, June 13th, and June 20th. So June 13th, excuse me. I'll just kind of go down this list. You got Dylan Berryman, who's a defensive tackle out of Louisiana. He's coming in. Felix Ojo, we've talked about, the offensive tackle, potential 5-star offensive tackle. He's locked in. Toa Katoa is a guy that I just mentioned, the interior offensive lineman. Zayden Krempin, another offensive tackle. So getting the theme here. Kyle Flood, I tell you what he did at that junior day a couple weeks ago. He was really aggressive setting up official visits that weekend while guys were in town. Tank King is a guy I just talked to on Sunday. He's a linebacker out of Port Arthur. He's locked in for that weekend. KJ Edwards and Javian Osborne, the 2 running backs we've talked about at length. Both those guys will be in that weekend. I've never talked to this guy. I need to find a way to contact him, but I think it's Heze. I think it's He's Kent, he's a tight end. Just released kind of some official visits. He's going to come in to Texas for that official visit.
Where's he out of? Where is he from?
He's out of Georgia. Let me find.
Okay.
And Brunswick, Georgia. I'm not even too familiar with where that is. So he's a guy, honestly, I need to do a little more digging on to see how strong of a threat Texas is. Bryce Perry Wright, another guy, another out-of-state guy, he's been to Texas like 4 times already. Another guy out of Georgia, out of Buford, an area that Texas recruits really well. He's coming in for an official visit. And then the last one we've got locked in for that weekend is Jalen Lott. The Rivals has him as a wide receiver. Texas is primarily recruiting him as a defensive back. I mean, he's a 5-star type talent out of Frisco, Texas. His dad played at Texas. I'm predicting him to be in this class, but he's going to be at that official visit weekend on June 13th as well.
Yeah, and Jalen, like you said, 6 foot 173 out of Frisco. He's got offers from just about everybody, right?
Yeah.
And of course, this is bringing in has all about everybody. Your thoughts on Jalen Lott, though, as a kind of as a prospect?
I love him. I just absolutely love. Like, seriously, like if you're watching this, when we're done, go put on his film on Huddle. It's a fun watch. And I just say he just makes it look so easy, Anwar. I mean, he's just like, he's just not say toying with people because he's not showboating, but he just makes it look so easy on offense and on defense. He's a good receiver. He's got good ball skills as a defender, can turn and run as a cornerback. I mean, just really can do it all. And Texas did say, hey, like we're primarily recruiting you as a cornerback, but we'll get you some offensive packages to get the ball in your hands. I don't know, man. You might have an argument between Chris Jackson and the defensive backs coaches on where he's going to line up first because they're all going to want him. He's really, really good. But I mean, Rivals has him as a number 6 in the state. I'm not sure that's not a little bit underranked. I mean, how much you can only go up so far from number 6, but if you said to me, Anwar, I've watched film and he's your favorite player in the state, I'd be like, I'm not going to push back on that. I mean, he's that good. I mean, he's a tremendous player. So I think Texas is in a good spot there. Obviously, he's got the ties. His dad played at Texas, he's in the Hall of Honor at Texas, and he was a tremendous track and field athlete and football player at Texas. But in talking to Jalen, I don't know that it's a stone cold lock. Kind of like Caden Finley. Everybody's like, oh, he's going to Texas because he's Jermichael Finley's kid. I don't know, man. Notre Dame's pushing pretty hard there. He really likes Notre Dame. There's one insider that I've known really well that thinks Notre Dame might have the inside track there. So I think Jalen Lott, I think it looks good for Texas, but I don't think it's a stone cold lock for Texas necessarily, but really just a tremendous player on either side of the ball.
Hey, Benji asked an interesting question, and he goes, do we have a shot at, Ojo and Turntine in the same class? Like, it was not that long ago, Jason, where Texas did have that killer offensive line recruiting class that had DJ Campbell and Kelvin Banks in the same class, right? So, we've kind of been waiting to get that, that lightning in a bottle back again. And so it's not unprecedented. We've seen it happen before. Is it a possibility that it could happen again?
Yeah, it's a little bit different situation though, than the one you mentioned because, Kelvin Banks was a true left tackle. In where you're looking at Felix Ojo and Turntine, excuse me, those guys are both pure tackles. DJ Campbell was always projected more to be an inside guy. So it's not like he and Kelvin Banks were really going to be competing for spots, right? Ojo and Turntine are both projected more at tackle. Again, we talked about maybe Turntine could be a guy that slides inside. So it won't be easy. It won't be easy to get both. But we've seen, like you said, we've seen Texas do it before. You throw Cam Williams in that mix, but he wasn't quite as highly ranked. Can they do it? Yes. Will it be easy? No, it won't be easy, but they can do it. And listen, man, let's just say what it is. NIL can make anything happen, right? If the numbers are right. So, I wouldn't predict. There's a reason. Like if you go read my 3-2-1 column on Orange Bloods today, I just posted it last night. It's pretty fresh this morning. I predict Felix Ojo in this class. I put a future cast in, I should say. I didn't put one in for John Turntine. Now, does that mean necessarily I think he's not going to wind up in the class? No, that's not what that means. But A&M's a strong player there. Tennessee, there's some other schools he's looking at. So I just think it might be tough to get both of them. Kind of like I said with running back. Can you get Javion Osborne? Can you get KJ Edwards? Can you get both of them? It's possible, but if one commits, let's say early July, does that maybe push the other one somewhere else? Well, it's the same thing with these offensive linemen. The short answer: can Texas get both of them? Yes. Will Texas get both of them? I don't know. I can't predict it 5 months down the road, but I think they have a shot for sure.
But Jason, let me also ask this, and then we'll get to the unarmed camp. But the last one is because I have Fasusi flashbacks every once in a while. Oh, you haven't mentioned Oklahoma in the mix for either one of them, and that's kind of surprising. Like, whatever, they've got an offensive line coach that guys like to play for. Like, it is what it is with Bendenbaugh. Is Oklahoma in play for, let's say, Ojo, or don't want to sleep on them from recruiting an offensive line standpoint?
Not a ton. They're involved, of course. They've offered, and they'll get the courtesy phone call and maybe a visit even. But Biedenbaugh is a really good coach, Omar. But is he going to be at Oklahoma next year? Is any of that staff going to be at Oklahoma next year? So there's that to think about. So is that whole program or is that whole coaching staff? I'd say dead man walking. That's a terrible phrase, but it's just a little bit of unknown future with that coaching staff, right? So I don't think Oklahoma's a primary threat for either of those guys. With Felix Ojo, you've got Ohio State, Michigan. He really likes Ole Miss. So there's some out-of-state programs. Turntine, I really think Turntine, honestly, the 3 official visits he has set up, and he'll set up some other ones. I think Turntine's pretty open, but he'll set up some others. But I really do think, just based on looking at his history of visits, I think it's probably going to be Texas. I think Texas A&M. I think Tennessee is in that mix. So I don't think Oklahoma's a big factor for either one of those guys. I'd be surprised to see either one of them wind up at OU, but they may get a visit out of them or something, something like that. But I wouldn't predict Ojo or Turntine to wind up at Oklahoma.
All I'm going to say, Jason, and I'm going to let it go at this. I'm looking here. I see Ojo visited Oklahoma 3 times. Now it's 2024, and and now there's some more recent visits, obviously with Texas. So maybe that was just a passing fancy. But at one point, this man was on campus pretty much every other month as relates to going to Oklahoma. Maybe that's old news. Maybe I'm just bringing up old stuff. And maybe that
was before those coaches. That was before they started losing a bunch of games. I'm trying to look at my notes the last time I talked to Ojo. Okay. He said Michigan, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Florida, Oklahoma, SMU, obviously Texas. So, again, Oklahoma's in there. They might get a visit out of them, but I just don't perceive, especially the year after Fasusi winds up there. I just don't see Ojo really giving Oklahoma strong consideration. But hey, again, man, it's almost 3, 4, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we could talk in February and I could make pretty solid predictions. Dude, things change so much right now. And I mean, NIL and everything else, like sometimes it's almost impossible to predict until the last minute. So never say never, Anwar, but I would be surprised to see either Ojo or Turntine wind up at Oklahoma.
All right. Well, one of the last subjects that we'll cover will be the Under Armour camp that's going on this weekend. First of all, where is it going to be held, Jason?
Excuse me. It's in Melissa, Texas, which is east of Dallas. And I'm thankful for that because Melissa, I've been to their campus before. They have this beautiful indoor practice facility and outdoor. So I'm hoping it's indoor because I did check the weather yesterday for Melissa, and the high is supposed to be like 40 degrees. I'm like, oh, man. So I don't understand. Under Armour puts on a fantastic event, right? Their camps are wonderful. I've been covering for whatever, almost 2 decades or something ridiculous. They always do, like if I look at my calendar, they've got, and I actually have an actual calendar all over. They have Under Armour Dallas is this weekend. Then Under Armour Houston is April 13th. I don't understand why they don't flip those. Do Houston earlier in Dallas because the weather in Dallas is always awful. So, but the short-winded answer, it's in Melissa. I'm hoping if it's freezing ass cold or raining or anything else, that they move it indoors. But it'll be at Melissa, Texas, this Sunday, and I will be.
Okay, and so explain to everybody who you may not know what the hell we're talking about when you say like an Under Armour camp. What is this, an invite only thing? Are we talking juniors, seniors? Like, what's going on? Is this kind of like a combine for high school players? Like, just give everybody a rundown.
Yeah, if I think they might have, and I don't even know. Sometimes they have like more of a camp where it's like anybody can show up and just go compete. But the one on Sunday is an invitation only camp. It'll be your guys in the 2026 class. And again, they have one in Houston. So this one will be primarily for your DFW area guys. Maybe some guys from Louisiana or Arkansas or Oklahoma will come in for this camp. But yeah, they just kind of bring them in. They, measure them, kind of put them through all that stuff, wingspan, heights, weights, the traditional stuff. And then they will put them through some just positional drills. And then the highlight of it is they'll put them through some one-on-ones where you get some offensive linemen, defensive linemen, one-on-ones. Then you'll get some skill position like linebacker, running backs, DBs, receivers, one-on-one type deals. Very similar concept to what Rivals does. We have our Rivals camp I should know that. I've got so many things going on, but I think the Rivals camp is in April. No, it's in May. I'm sorry. It's in May this year. It's early May up in the Dallas area. So, but yeah, that's kind of what goes on. So, guys I'm expecting that a guy like Felix Ojo will be there. John Turntine, I'm expecting, hopefully will be there. So a lot of these top Dallas, Jalen Lott, a lot of these guys we talked about, I'm hoping to get a good in-person look at them this weekend and get to talk to them as well, of course. So we'll have scattering reports and interviews and everything else. We'll have a lot to talk about hopefully next week. Oh, someone said there's a Buc-ee's in Melissa. Hello, Bohemian Beef Jerky. Here I come. All right.
That's that's such a random statement that it has to be true.
Stefania's word on
Stephanie.
Stephanie, I can't. Man, my eyes are bad. Stephanie. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's an E on the end. You're right. Yeah, Stephanie. I'll be at Buc-ee's on probably multiple times over the course of the weekend. So.
Breakfast and a little lunch and things like that. The thing is, Jason, this event has a lot to do with how the kids get ranked, though. Isn't that what it usually boils down to?
Yeah, it does. You're right. I mean, this camp, there's a lot that goes into that. There's this camp, there's the Rivals camp, there's just spring evaluations, summer camps, obviously all-American games, and of course how they play in the fall in games. But yeah, this does move the needle in terms of rankings. We'll see. Rivals, like I said, has their own camp, so that one maybe in terms of Rivals rankings that might affect things a little more. But overall, yeah, this camp, and I get it. People are like, yeah, it's people say underwear Olympics because they're not wearing pads and things like that. No, I do understand that. Like I prefer to, if I was doing rankings, I would say, okay, I'm going to base it more off their actual film or their game performances. But there's a lot to be said from these camps. You can get a lot of, it's just kind of like going to the NFL combine. I mean, they're not running around in pads out there, but you can just eyeball a guy. You can see how a guy moves. I've gone to camps before. And I'm like, oh crap, that guy's like 3 inches shorter than what he's telling people he is. He's not quite the player he is. Or you know what? This camp last year, Anwar, I guess it would have been 2 years ago, is where I first saw Michael Fasusi. And I'm like, it was at the Under Armour camp. And I'm like, oh shit. And he was not on my radar. He had not visited Texas, right? He wasn't really on my radar in terms of like being a recruit I'd ever talked to. But I saw him. I'm like, okay, that dude's legit. And he wasn't a 5-star at this point. I don't even think he was in like the top 100 maybe. But I was like, whoa, that guy needs to be moved up the rankings. Just looking at him, watching the way he moved, watching him in one-on-ones. And then I saw him again at the Rivals camp, and he did the same thing. And then you look at his film, and then he ends up being a 5-star prospect for a reason. So yeah, these camps really are valuable. I don't say to put too much stock into them. It's not the end all be all. It's one camp. They're not in pads, but you can certainly gain a lot of a lot of kind of attention and a lot of knowledge on these players in watching them at these camps.
So very last thing, non-recruiting related, Super Bowl just happened over the weekend. Just your thoughts, a couple of things. I want to get your thoughts just on the game itself, how everything played out, and your thoughts on seeing a guy like you covered, Jalen Hurts, emerging into a Super Bowl MVP. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy in so many ways. So I just kind of want to wrap it up with some of your Super Bowl thoughts.
Well, the game sucked. The game was I had a mini Super Bowl party. Like a couple of my neighbors, like a few different friends came over. Everybody left at halftime. So I was like, well, that's kind of I'll just watch the second half by myself and root for my prize picks to hit. But yeah, the game was disappointing. I was actually rooting for the Chiefs, so that stunk. But Jalen Hurts is a guy. It's funny you asked that, Omar. And I mean, we never script these things, so I didn't know you were going to ask that. But I was watching the game with my daughters and even my wife, who can't even pick a football out of a lineup, I don't think. So she doesn't know anything about football. But after the game, we're watching it, and he wins the MVP. And I was telling them, I said, hey, that's a dude. I always kind of have a running joke with my kids. I'm like, oh, hey, Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl, or won MVP. Hey, and I'll pull his number up because I still have his number in my phone. So I'll show my kids, like, hey, let's send Jalen Hurts a text and tell him congratulations. But Texas didn't recruit him that aggressively. What I remember about Jalen Hurts, and I used to talk to his dad quite a bit too, is that he was just a class act. Okay. And that's so I'm watching the game, and he wins the MVP. And I told my daughters and my wife, and I was like, I'm really happy for Jalen Hurts, because I was like, dude, he was a class act. And as a recruit, always, you don't ever see him shouting down his teammates in the NFL level. He's just a good dude. He really kind of stumbled hit a hurdle at Oklahoma, got replaced in the national championship game. But, he never wasn't bitter. He handled it wonderfully, maturely, goes to Oklahoma. I kind of told him his whole backstory. So, long story short, I was really happy. And listen, Jalen Hurts wouldn't know me if I walked up and tapped him on the shoulder at this point. But I'm really, you hear me say all the time, Omar, I like to root for good, I say kids, and Jalen Hurts not a kid, but I'm at a point in my life and my career where I appreciate when I cover a recruit, like, man, that guy's a really good person and a good young man and a mature young man. So I was really happy for Jalen Hurts. So I hate the Eagles, but I was happy for Jalen Hurts.
Well, yeah. Well, Eagles would be happy for Moro Jomo, right? At least.
Yeah. Yep. Another good one. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Who won it as well. All right, Jason, get out of here. I know we got the podcast coming up at noon, so get out of here.
All
right, buddy. Jason Sugamel. If you missed some of the stuff at the beginning of the show, go back and go check it out. There's a lot of stuff about Turntine, some Mojo conversations as well. Kind of dove deep into all those things. So go back, listen to it at 1.5 speed so you can get through it faster and everything to that effect. We'll have the podcast today at noon. That'll be upcoming. So that'll be the next kind of a show for today. And that's really about it, y'all. We're good. Hope everyone's doing well, man. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Hope everyone's good. I want to make sure y'all do hit the like button. If you had, we'll make sure no one dropped a super chat in here. Okay, no one got today. Everyone's good. All right, we are good. By the way, I will say this now. I do want to say this, Jake. This is a pet peeve of mine for people in the recruiting industry. I hate when they put in like their predictions like a day or two before a guy commits. I'm like, what? How's it a prediction if you already know the result? Jake, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Just gonna say that. You and I, we here with that. I'm always like, that's cheating. So you're good. All right, y'all. Remember, I always say live each day like it's your last. One day it will be. So go out today, do something special for yourself, enjoy yourself, treat yourself to something nice, a nice little lunch. I don't know, go to Ross and buy yourself a candle. I don't care. It don't have to be something grand. Just do something special for yourself because you deserve it, man. Just letting yourself know. Go to Buc-ee's. I don't give it. Just do something. Because you say, just don't wait for other people to do it. Do it for yourself. All right, y'all. Y'all take care. I'll be back here at noon.